questions to ask throughout a campaign with the confidence rising. I told WDF don't switch, good times are coming on even deep diving. Fan cams, reactions, watch alongs to the pride of London thriving. The Eagles of South they flying. Keep your eyes on us, we ain't hiding.
Yes, guys, welcome back to TACT. This one is a pre-record because we're not around on Wednesday, but we're still getting you your tactical goodness anyway. As always, I'm joined here with Dan. How you doing?
Yeah, good, much better. I've been recovering this weekend from quite a dirty, I think like a throat infection or something, because I played football on Thursday when I was like mildly ill. And then after that, it just ruined me. So advice, don't play football when you're mildly ill. How you doing, JC?
Fair enough. My first proper day back at work today after annual leave, which was a bit strange to get back into it, but we got there in the end, and I guess back on that, just doing the same thing every day now, just getting used to it again. But you're not here to listen to our personal lives and how interesting both of our lives are. We're here to talk about Crystal Palace, and 3 wins on the bounce. Every single match Roy has managed us so far this season, we have won. And Dan, before we talk about it tactically, do you think we can get 4 and 4?
Yeah, 100%.
Lacking the confidence.
I think we'll obviously talk about this a bit more later, but I think Everton are missing some personnel who are really key for them. And had they been playing, I think it would be a different story. But I think without them playing, it gives us a much bigger advantage.
Well, to be fair, we can talk about that right now. So here on the screen, you can see the injury list for Everton. Clearly, you can see Andros Townsend, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Seamus Coleman, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Ruben, don't know who that is, man like someone called Ali, and Amadou Onana. So, put it this way. Doucouré and Onana, in my opinion, are probably their biggest misses. I know that they do like Seamus Coleman to play at right back a lot and Dominic Calvert-Lewin to play up front. On here, it does say he could potentially return for our match, which would be quite hilarious because I swear he returned for our match last season, didn't he? From injury.
Maybe. I don't know.
Come and score twice, but that's a bit of a sore subject. But having those absences in midfield, I think that will greatly harm their team. And I think that it showed against Fulham, because I don't think Fulham played particularly well, but because they don't have that personnel in midfield and it's a brand new midfield, that they're going to struggle. And they did against Fulham, and I think they'll keep struggling for a little while longer.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, like you said, I watched back the Fulham game, and they didn't, like you said, Fulham didn't play very well. Yet Fulham managed to control the centre of midfield pretty easily, pretty comfortably. And then, even though you could argue maybe Fulham's goals were a bit lucky in some senses, a couple of them, and maybe Everton should have finished their chances a bit more, but at the end of the day, Fulham have scored 3 and Everton have scored 1. So,
yeah. Oh, the result, even though the performance may not warrant the result's what matters.
well,
So,
exactly.
Seeing all these injuries and seeing that I think we've only got, 1 or 2 injuries now? I think Ferguson and someone else.
Does Ferguson even count anymore?
I mean, to get the numbers up, it surely should, right?
I'm guessing
Palace injuries.
I mean, is Zaha even injured anymore, technically?
Zaha, Gaeta, Ferguson, and Klein.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think Zaha aside, I don't think they would be starting for me anyway.
That's a good thing to say. Is that VG's first team spot gone now with how good John Stone's been playing?
I'm not going to say gone because I think you should have a system with goalkeepers, well, with any player, that if you perform well enough, you should play. So, I mean, I would like to think so because I know VG's just signed a new contract, but it is coming to a point where, I mean, I thought VG was going to leave this summer, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
He signed a new contract, but there is going to be a time when it's inevitable he is going to retire. So we're going to need someone to be that person who's there when he's gone. And I think having someone come in like Johnston now, with maybe greater going into his last year, I think is a good thing.
Bit of competition.
Yeah, no, for sure. Competition's key.
Definitely. Just wish that Mitchell had a little bit of it. But we're not here to talk about that kind of stuff. Let's talk about my predicted lineups for both teams. Start off with Crystal Palace on the left. We'll go Johnson in goal with Mitchell, Gay, Anderson, and Ward at the back, with Decore sitting, with Schlapp and Eze playing as eights, and Eze maybe shifting into a 10 in attack, with Ayu on the left wing, Elise on the right wing, and Odson Edward on the striking position. Dan, what are we saying? You agreeing? You disagreeing?
Yeah, my setup was exactly the same.
My picks for Everton, after hearing all these injuries, I've gone with basically the same 11 that they got beat by Fulham, because I don't think they actually have anything better to put out and anything that Sean Dyche would rather work with, in my opinion. So I've gone with Pickford in goal, with Mikolenko, Tarkovsky, Keane, and Godfrey at the back, with Idrissa Gueye and James Garner in the midfield, with Iwobi on the right midfield, McNeil on the left midfield, with Malpay and Damari Gray up front in his very well-known 4-4-2 formation. Dan, do you agree with this Everton lineup?
Yeah, I went for exactly the same one. So I did the same. I copied their lineup from Fulham. Like I said, I think their midfield really suffers without Onana and Decore. I think Garner was brought in because Onana got injured, but then Decore is also missing because he got sent off. I think had both of them been available, we'd be seeing a 5 midfield. It'd be a 4-5-1.
Definitely. Dan, you choose today. Are we going to talk about us defending first, or are we going to talk about us attacking first?
What have I got? Let's do attack. So I've got a couple pictures. So let's do attack.
Right.
Right,
Dan, take it away.
So first things first. I'm deciding what to show first. Let's go for. I'll tell you what. Let me show you the tactics first, because then I can bring in the pictures a bit later. So, oops. Okay, so let me just get a football. So, as I said, I thought we'd line up exactly the same. One thing to note with Dyche's team, how they defend, I'll say all the stuff we're expecting to say because we'll just say it anyway. You know, they're very tenacious, they're rigid, and a Dyche side, you know, fundamentally their defensive work is going to be good, which they are, to be fair. Even though they didn't necessarily play too well on against Fulham, I think that's more of the lack of personnel available rather than the actual tactics. And it's quite common to see them all very packed together. So if the ball's over here, say the ball's been played over here, it's not weird to see them lining up in the 4-4-2 like this. They tend to play quite packed like that, and so on. Sometimes even as well, and I think this might be from McNeil's days at Burnley, but it wouldn't be weird to see McNeil even dropping when there's perhaps a potential of an overload on this side. So you kind of get like a 5-3-2. So that's also something that we might see. But anyways, I'm going to take it back to that first one. So if the ball's over here and they're like this, let's say they're like this, I'm sure you could spot straight away what we could do to try and get the ball or try and work the ball well. So let's just
switch it.
Exactly. And that was something that I noticed Everton were very vulnerable to.
Something we should have done a lot more against Southampton as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, for sure. I'm hoping that, because I thought against Southampton we didn't really get out of gear 2, to be honest.
I don't think we left gear 1 in proper reality.
And I'm hoping that, obviously for entertainment's sake, so I'm hoping that we don't do that. Obviously, if we win, that's the main thing. But at the same time, for entertainment value and potentially seeing us batter Everton 4-5-0, famous last words. Like it would be great if we didn't. But anyway, but let's say we are like over here, as you said. What we should do really is try to get it over there as quick as possible. And I want to stress as quick as possible, because one of the hardest things you can do, one of the bad things that we can do attacking wise is take our time. Because if we pass it to Schlupp and then like for example, and then to Gay and then to Anderson and then over to Ward and so on and so forth, that's already 1, 2, 3, 4 passes, and we've barely even got it to the other side of the pitch. All they're going to do by doing that is just shift all their players over, basically the carbon copy, but on the other side, easy. And then that's what, and on an organised side like a Sean Dyche side, that's what they want, okay? To play that low block and kind of force you out wide in a slow manner. So really what you need to do is be quick about it. So what I would do is, I mean, I'm not expecting Jordan O, even though sometimes he does think he's Kevin De Bruyne. He's not. But a cheeky little pass to Doucouré, and Doucouré's got more than enough to be able to make that pass over there. Now, what I want to see as well is as soon as Doucouré gets that ball, so even before he gets it, I want to see Eze making this run inside here, and you'll see you'll see why I want that in a sec, because what these two are going to do is they're going to both come out wide to try and meet, so they're not overloaded. So you got Ward and Elise now against Mikalenko and McNeil. Now, obviously, I know Tarkovsky can cover this Eze run, but that then leaves Edouard open. And you would have hoped that by the time this ball gets over here, maybe Schlupp and Ayew are going to be occupying these space over here. So then that's going to create more gaps for them if then people need to cover and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And this, I feel like I managed to capture this in a couple of pictures that I put on there.
I think the first one we should show after you showing how we can with the extra runners. I think it's good to show the image that I got first. I think the extra runners would really show. So here is a screenshot of a Fulham attack which ended up in a goal. Did it end up in a goal? I can't actually remember. But
yeah,
as we can see here, they switched. They built up play down the right side, where you can see is clearly the side where all the players are on. But because Fulham broke with such pace with Dan James, you can see the red circle. That is where all of Everton's midfielders are. And as Dan said, if Eze, Schlupp, Edouard, Ayew can make the runs, which you can see in the red lines, the amount of free space here. I know you've still got the both centre halves in the way, but I'm sure if you've got an overload of 3 against 2, you're definitely going to have a free chance of scoring. Elise done it when he was running at the Leeds defenders. He had two choices, Edouard or Eze, and he picked Edouard and he scored. It's such a massive space that I think Dwight McNeil is the furthest forward player in the whole team in this situation. And seeing that there's a gap between him and the centre half and there's nothing in between, if we can occupy these kind of spaces when on the attack, there's no reason why we really can't hurt this team.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the pictures I was going to show are not that dissimilar. So again, you can see here in this first picture, Fulham are about to spray it wide. And then that leaves a 2v2. Now, in this particular case, they don't have a runner doing that. But I can fully imagine Eze making that run in the blue arrow. I can imagine that. Like the two players we've got that are on the ball, on the Fulham players there, I can imagine that for us being Elise and Ward. Decore was the one who's perhaps sprayed this ball over. Or to be honest, it doesn't even have to be Decore. That's the fantastic thing about our back line as well, is that Gay and Anderson are both more than capable of making that pass.
Yeah.
As well. So it's not even just that we're relying on Decore. It's not like they could just pin a player on him and then that's it, game over. Like Gay and Anderson can both do that. And then that eventually culminates into this, this one here, where I think Eze will be making that run all day long. In fact, he did make a not too dissimilar run against Leeds, and then at least they found him, and then we scored. So that's for me the main way that I think we could go against Everton.
100%. I'll show you my tactics board here. I'm basically showing almost the exact same thing, but I know that for a fact that Ayew and Mitchell lately under Roy have been hogging that touchline. They've been there in loads of space and we've just not utilized it that much. And I tend to differ with what you said about how they defend very slightly. So if you can see with how I've got them set up, I've got them set up in like a 4-5-1.
Mm-hmm.
You see the bank of four, the Gray from up top slots in at the right mid. Iwobi comes into the middle slightly because he had a little stint in the 10 position, so he's a bit more comfortable in the midfield, and then Malpe's their outlet. So they do this, but they really suck in the fullbacks. They really sit compact. They make the space in between the lines as small as possible. They try and make the space in between the players as small as possible, so it's really hard to pass through them. The benefit of this is that they leave so much space out wide and they sort of ask you to cross the ball because Keane and Tarkowski are more than capable of heading the ball away. If we had Haaland up front, then we'd be talking about something completely different. But because we have Edouard up front, who's not the best in the air, I think that crossing's got to be nearly out of the game completely here. I think that we have to go on the floor. And I think because we have dribblers, that is the perfect way to attack this team.
Yeah, I completely agree.
They also defend in a very strange way. As you said, literally, their whole team will just, if the ball's over here, their whole, if the ball's over there, come on, man. If the ball's over here, their whole team will move over here. If the ball is over here, you guessed it, the whole team will move over here. And put it this way, if their whole team moves over to the left side, and we do like to take up these kind of positions, Gay's sort of in a left-back position, Mitchell pushes up, Ayew comes inside a little bit, Anderson takes a central role. But it does leave, everyone push over a little bit, it does leave Elise to have so much space over here. Gay is more than capable of hitting that one time. Very capable. And the ball comes in. You guessed it. Everyone bops over to Elise over here. But this is where the runners that Dan was talking about becomes very interesting, because I'm sure before they get here, Elise's already going to be driving them. So I would probably back him to beat Mikolenko in a 1v1. I don't know about you, Dan, but I would.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If he takes up this space that's slightly in behind, you got Edward running through, you got Eze running through, you got Schlupp running through. And are you done it against Southampton, where he came in late, but he sort of made like a curved run? That you know that chance where he should have scored, but he didn't,
Yeah.
because he sort of made this run into the
Mhm.
center. I think having all these runners, it gives us so much space in behind, because if they don't track us, like how they didn't track any of the Fulham players when they were attacking at speed, we're going to have 3 men in the box. And if the ball drops in the box, that's how Fulham scored. I think one last thing that I'd like to talk about is how they press when they're defending. When they press, they do leave a lot of space in behind. I know Dan talked about it with the run that he wanted Eze to make, but it's not just the midfielder and the fullback that does it. Because the lack of Decore, the lack of Onana, it does mean that the likes of Keane and Tarowski have to step up, because Garner and Iwobi are not that good defensively. So you will see points in this game where Tarkovsky and Keane will step up, and they're not the best. They're not the fastest. They're not the strongest. But they'll step up. They may misjudge it. They may get it. But if they step up, that is prime opportunity for Edward to literally just fill the space that Tarski or Keane has left, and he's got lots of space in behind to maybe get a shot off or to maybe start dribbling. So there are many options that we can hurt this Everton team.
Yeah, for sure. And Tarkovsky and Keane aren't the quickest players. Not that we've got any players with searing pace, but they're not the quickest players in the world either.
Yeah, like for example, for Eze's second goal, he turned on a dime. I highly doubt that those two guys will be able to track that run at all or change direction fast enough to keep up with him.
No, definitely. I honestly think if we did what he did last week, like you said, with IU's curve runs and just filling that void where, like, if we switch the ball, fill that void of where their midfielders probably should be, and then just look for the cutback and then just hit it, I think.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the fact that Onana and Decore is injured is so big, like, because if they were being played, that may be a much less viable option.
Definitely. With the late runs, cutting it back. If they don't fix up their mistakes that they made in this Fulham game, we could be seeing a cricket score near enough if we are on form as well.
Yeah, because like you say, Fulham didn't even really play well, and the fact that Everton then lost 3-1, I think is quite telling. And I think as well, I know we're going to move on to the defensive stuff now, but I think Neil Mopai has never been the most clinical goal scorer.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is that, one, you're not creating the chances necessarily, but then if you've got players who aren't finishing them, then that's double bad.
Mm-hmm. However, he is ex-Brighton, so he will score against us. You know it.
Did he score? No. Did he score against us last time?
He scored against us for Brighton, I think. He didn't. I don't
Yeah,
think he scored against us for Everton yet, though.
Well, he scored because he scored when we drew 1-1 at our place last season.
Yeah, where we let it bounce.
Yeah.
But then Sanchez let it bounce, so karma comes round. Dan, take me through the defensive tactics when you stop dying, please.
So, I think, again, because they're quite hamstrung, Everton, I think it's relatively not too bad. Because what we've talked about what we've talked about in the past is about trying to force the opposition players to maybe make passes that they don't really want to, or something like that. But Everton kind of do that anyway. Because, like, let's say we got these players up here like this. Okay. Everton like to naturally hit the wings, hit the lines.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, it's over here. It's a bit unrealistic, but you get me. So say Tarkovsky's get it. They're going to look, I know it sounds very stereotypical, but some stereotypes are true. They're going to look to hit it long. He was saying about Mopai earlier. They say, I think if Calvert-Lewin was playing, not that, I mean, has Calvert-Lewin even played this season? I don't even know. But had he been playing, it'd be a different story because he's very good at heading the ball. He's very good at holding up the ball. Mopai is okay at holding up the ball on the floor, but I think aerially, I think a lot is left to be desired. So I think as long as when they do this, because what they'll do is that Mopai will be there, but when they do that, they'll try and bring these players a bit closer so that if Mopai does win the ball, then he's got someone to knock it down to, whether it's Gray or whether it's maybe to Iwobi or whether it's to McNeil. Now, how do you mitigate against this? Well, you just got to kind of do the opposite. So I would stick your best header on him. Maybe not, but whoever makes more sense, Gay, maybe head the ball. Make sure we got players around them so that whoever wins it can try and head it. If you can head it back to Johnston, even better. Then we just start again. Now, not only that, but they do that. They try to do similar things, but on the wings as well. I guess because on the wings, there's less players defending. So I guess theoretically it's easier. So say like Keane's got the ball here. Going to maybe ping that diagonal over here. Palace fans, you might remember these kind of tactics when we had Big Sam. To McNeil. McNeil's going to do exactly the same thing. He's going to try and take the ball down, pass it to Mopai, and then pass it on the ground. Mm-hmm. That's generally how they try to create space. Because to be fair, what this does is that it does create space. Because let's say really this is probably what it would actually look like. I made it too deep, but this is probably what it would more look like over here. It'd be more higher up. You'd have a higher line. But what this long ball does over here is that it forces the back line back. Now, where the danger comes, as you can see, this has created a lot of space in the middle here. Mm-hmm. So if your midfielders aren't doing their job and they're not also tracking back, that space is still there. So, and if Mopai does win that ball and does manage to knock it, for God's sakes, does manage to knock it down to Gray or someone like that, then you're in trouble because they've got space, they're able to turn, and that's it. So that's why it does. Yeah, so that's why it does work. Like when I was explaining it, I didn't want it to sound like I was bashing the tactics because the tactics themselves aren't that bad. Like they're proven to work. Dyche has made him work in the past. So, I mean, he literally got Burnley to European football. So they obviously do work.
Yeah.
And also as well, I think it'll be a bit of a disservice to them to say that they only do this. They don't just do this. If they are in a position where they can make the saying favorite word, vertical pass.
Whoa.
It
only took 29 minutes.
They will. So if they can play it on the floor, they will. And one thing I did notice that they do like to do quite a lot is that they really love a 1-2. So if Graves does get the ball here from, say, one of those long passes from Mopai, if he kicks it to Mopai and Gay gets sucked in, fully expect Gray to make that 1-2 run and for Mopai Mopai to then try and do that.
Yeah, that is exactly how the other way round is exactly how Maupay got into that one-on-one opportunity on goal, but he missed it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
they make good chances. They play good football. It's just that they don't take the chances. And they
Yeah.
don't make enough of them to really excel.
I genuinely think Everton's biggest downfall is their recruitment. I think Dyche's tactics are pretty sound.
Oh, of course. He wouldn't have got
It's
Burnley to Europe if they weren't.
well, exactly, and
And
I
that was
think
before any of his Conference League stuff.
well, exactly, and I think when you're missing your two of your most important players, and you're trying to play a system like this when your striker's Neil Mopai, you know, it's always going to be an uphill struggle, which is the reason why they've won 3 games in 11.
Yeah.
But that's generally what I got. And I mean, how do you defend against this? I think as long as you're tracking your men, you're being sensible and just not leaving loads of gaps, I think you're fine. What you're not going to see is that you're not going to see like, okay, you might see like Gray come over to the side, McNeil might play in the middle, or vice versa. McNeil might come to the right. But generally speaking, their positions will still be the same. What you're not going to get is like Gray coming inside and then Garner overlapping, and then like, you know, that you're not going to get that. That's not what you're going to see. So it's pretty rigid, and I think as long as you're sticking with your men and you are just keeping an eye on those 1-2, cut the passing lanes, I think you're okay. And I know Klein is injured, but I think even if he was available, I would still play Ward because Ward is much better in the air. And I think if you're doing that long pass, okay, Gray might not be that great in the air, but McNeil's pretty decent in the air. I think Ward would have the better over him, and that's it really.
But would in that case, would it be better to maybe play? I know it won't happen, but just playing devil's advocate, would it maybe be better to play Richards there, as he's a proper centre back, but that can also play right back?
I'm going to say no, just because I think what we would lose in attack by playing a centre back, a right back, we would like. I think it'd be much more beneficial in an attacking sense to play Ward.
Okay.
Mainly because I've never actually ever seen Richards play right back.
Well, for America, he does overlap quite a lot as a centre back. So I'm not saying like he's as good as Ben White, but when he plays at fullback, he sort of reminds me a little bit of Ben White.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, I mean, personally, I would play Ward just because
we know him as well. So
yeah,
I
know what to expect with Ward. So
yeah, I've not gone much different. I think the things that I'd like to touch on a bit more is how Palace would have been defending lately, and I noticed something that, in my opinion, I think is actually really funny. I don't know if you've noticed it as well, Dan, but under Roy, we defend in the same formation that we used to attack with Vieira.
Well, we can't. What isn't like a 4-4-5-1?
No, like I know Ayew and Elise are a bit deep because they have to track the midfielders. But let's say if we push these guys up a bit more, it is a 4-2-3-1, isn't it?
Effectively, yeah.
And I thought that was pretty funny that we were trying to go forwards under Vieira in a very defensive formation. Because as we said, without attacking fullbacks, that this formation doesn't work. However, defensively, we were all right under Vieira, and I think this is the reason why. Because we're able to tuck in. Schlupp is physically strong, Decore is physically strong, and we've got 2 outlets of Eze and Edouard. Eze is sort of playing, I guess, as a second striker and just as any outlet coming short to help. And sort of like the main guy when pressing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be important because, as you said, they're going to hoof it up to Maupay. It's inevitable. It's like Thanos. But if he's here, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players that can swarm him. Granted, if he does well and gets the ball away, they've got loads of space and they can then work with it. But I'll probably go out on a whim, and as you said, famous last words. I'll probably say without Decore and without Onana, if that ball doesn't land to Iwobi, who's probably going to be the only guy who's close enough, I don't think Garner and Gay will have the minerals to take advantage of that kind of situation. And I think this is where the fact of their injuries are going to play into a big part in our hands defensively in the same sentence as offensively.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
But honestly, other than that, I think you hit it right on the head there, mate.
I would say, no, I agree, because, like, especially not to dig Garner out, because I think Garner's a good player, but I don't think he's played. One, he's not played very. Let me just check. Garner,
Yeah, I don't think he's played very much.
I can't even find him on here. Where is he? Sorry, beg your pardon. I should have done my. Yeah, so James Garner has played. Guess how many minutes he's played so far this season?
I'm guessing under 400.
Yeah, he's played 270 minutes.
That's what? 5 games? That's it?
That's 3 games. And bear in mind, one of them was literally the last game. So, and also he's not a centre midfielder. So, 1, he's barely played, and 2, he's not a centre midfielder. So, I think that speaks volumes about how lacking at centre midfield depth they are right now.
Mm-hmm. But as we always do in Tactical, we're going to finish it with a score prediction, Dan.
Woo!
Do you still not predict any scores, or are you actually going to give us a score this time?
Well, I've got to predict for the Predictions League anyway, so, you know, if it's jinxed, it gets jinxed anyway, doesn't it? I'm going to say 3-0.
Big shout.
It's purely because Decore and Onana and Calvert-Lewin aren't available. Had they not been available, I probably would have said a 1-1 draw or something.
Fair enough. I'm going to go with another 2-0 because I think that if we get ahead and we're ahead by 2 goals, we're probably going to lay off the gas a bit. I know that's the mistake we made against them at their place, but I feel like at our place it'll be a bit different. I don't think we'll let it go that badly. And also, we need to get payback for how their fans treated us at their place. So I'm sure that Roy and Ray will get into the players and say, look, we need to get him back because all this nice guy stuff ain't working. We need to stick it to him.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm hoping that they play a nice video montage before
Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
If you've seen it, you know. But otherwise, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. This is Tactical versus Everton. As always, like, share, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed it. This is me. That's my night Statman Dan, and we are out. Hoping for 4-4. Come on, up the Palace.
Eagles!